What's up, everybody? It's Tuesday. Once again, we're back getting tactical over here. It's been a little while because we didn't have a stream last week because I was coming back from Florida streaming the Crucible. So I'm finally back in the super exciting TacticalTortoise studio. I got some new lighting set up, some almost kind of professional lighting, which looks a little bit better than my normal stuff, I guess. I don't know. Let me know what you think about it. But yeah, doing a lot to upgrade the stream, both here and abroad. But I streamed not only Crucible the weekend before this past weekend, but also Battle for Salvation this past weekend. Thanks to everybody who hung out with me in the chat for those events. The stream was awesome. We had a couple technical issues. Finals of BFS, pretty sure one of the players broke one of my microphones. So gonna have to buy some new microphones, which we probably need to anyway, because they had some interference over the weekend. But yeah, lots of cool feedback to upgrade the stream, and a lot of people interested in me streaming more. So if you enjoyed what you saw and you want me to stream more, and you have events in your area that you'd like me to come out to, anywhere within basically Canada or the continental US, for sure right now, I'm willing to come out, tell them to get in touch with me, and we'll figure it out because a lot of people are interested, and I think I'm going to be doing a lot more streaming. Now the 10th edition is like sort of fully actually out. GTs are out in force, and there is so much Warhammer 40k coverage to be done. So I'm psyched for that. I hope everyone else is as well. And let's freaking talk about some Tyranids, man. This is kind of the last opportunity, I think, to talk about Tyranids before the cycle gets taken over by Space Marines. And while the discourse around Tyranids has been really interesting, I think their win rate's kind of low right now, as far as I know. However, they have put up a lot of undefeated results over the last 2 weeks. Now, to be fair, a lot of factions have put up undefeated results over the last 2 weeks. The data slate, kind of post-data slate season is still, or format, I should say, is still kind of cementing itself. People are figuring out what's good. But Tyranids have been one of those factions that, I don't know, not a lot of people are jazzed about, but they're still putting up some insane results with some absolutely wild lists. So that's what I want to start with talking about today, is going over some of the archetypes that have gone undefeated, because there are some surprising ones, I think, most recently, as well as talk about the faction in general, and then we'll move on to talking about some other factions that did well over the course of the last couple weeks. Yeah. Chad, improved lighting is really noticeable even on your phone screen. Dude, I appreciate that. Hell yeah. That's what I like to hear. That's awesome. Altharind, how's it going? Continental or contiguous? There's a difference. Let's go with continental. I'll go to Alaska. don't tell me I won't. That might be dangerous, but whatever. I'm willing to risk my life for 40k. Yeah, let's go. The only thing we could say is NIDS may not be touched by the next data slate. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited. But I am over here in our friends over at Discount Games Incorporated. I know we're going to get questions in the chat. Actually, I should post in the chat. Ready? I bet I could just do this right here. I'll post in the chat where the lists are from, and then I'll pin it. This is technology I discovered over the weekend. There you go. Now people won't have to ask where we're getting these lists from. So, yeah, we have a lot of undefeated Tyranids, like I said. Just this past weekend, we saw Brody Middleton over at the Pantheon GT go 5-0. We saw Francois Lalonde over at the Quebec City Open 4-0-1, so that's one draw on the record. We also saw a 5-0 at Broadsword Wargaming. And then last week, we saw Larry Oliver and John Lennon go X and O with Tyranids. Now, there are some factions that I think we can kind of expect to be up here. Eldar still doing pretty well. Imperial Knights actually have kind of like stayed strong somehow. That one I'm a little bit confused by, but I think the fact that they can actually hide against towering stuff right now is pretty beneficial to the faction, honestly. Plus Canis Rex being cheaper is like a big deal because that dude rocks. Although his ability to get free strats is debuffed, his damage output's good, and he got a points decrease, so that, like, I don't know, might just help. But a lot of Tyranids to talk about. In addition, I think Tau Empire and Orcs as well as Chaos Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines might unironically be the best faction in 40k right now, which kind of came out of nowhere, but I think we could kind of see coming. A lot of people rated it pretty highly when the data slate came out, but I don't think we were quite prepared for how efficient Chaos Space Marines are, because they definitely have the best group of stratagems, the best selection of stratagems, I think, in 40k right now. And they were mostly, their Chaos Lords get a lot of them for free. Basically, all their good stratagems are battle tactics still, so they didn't really get hit by the nerf too bad, and they're mostly taking Abaddon for CP regen anyway, or the Eye of Tzeentch guy. So Chaos Space Marines have just like a nuts damage output. They're so good at ranged trades. So I think definitely they're super duper high up there. But what we're focusing on right now is Tyranids, which is not necessarily a faction that a lot of people would be expected to see up there. Altherin immediately asking where the lists are from. I appreciate that. We could say all of North America, or just Canada and the US. Could we say all of North America? Is there any part of North America that doesn't include Canada and the US? I don't know if that's true. Is that my geographical knowledge? Or my lack of geographical knowledge coming to bite me? Inky's going to come say hi to the stream real quick, I think. Inky, you want to come up? Yeah? Come on up, dude. Come say hi to the stream. There you are. We have to figure out a cat cam, I think, for Inky, because she's a little bit harder to see on the with this new setup. But here she is. Inky, say hello. There she is. What a cutie pie. Nice. All right. So let's start diving into some lists here as I get my camera reoriented. I had it all nice, and now I just messed it up. That's okay. We got CQ Cat, so. Is Mexico in North America, or is that Central America? I thought that was Central America. Well, maybe I need to go back to geography class from elementary school. Absolute Madland won a 40-man GT with pure Khorne Daemons. That sounds familiar. I'm going to be honest, Chad, I haven't had too much of a chance to like dive into lists super hard in the last week or so. But, yeah. All right. Let's hop in. So, what I want to do, we'll start with the list from last week, because we didn't have a show last weekend. Or last week, I should say. We did watch John Lennon on stream, so if you were live with me at Crucible GT, that was the event that John Lennon won with a Synaptic Nexus. He had some super sweet games. The finals is a bit of a bop against Imperial Knights. Basically, the Imperial Knights ran to the center of the table, failed their leadership chest to the Neuro Tyrant, and then just vaporized. It turns out, so this list was running the Hive Tyrant, Neuro Tyrant with Power of the Hive Mind, and Death Leaper. Basically, I think we can sort of expect all of these characters in most Tyranid lists, especially with Synaptic Control on the Hive Tyrant, and that guy has access to Reinforced Hive Node, so -1 AP going into him. So he's a base 2+ save with -1 AP with a with -1 damage on him. He's actually stacks a lot of defensive technology pretty well. The Neuro Tyrant gets the buffed Flamer, the buff Psychic Scream from the enhancement as well, so that's super sick. And then 20 Gargoyles to score objectives. The one thing I kept seeing people do is not properly screen their home objectives against the Gargoyles. What you have to do is actually ensure that no Gargoyle can come in 6 inches away from your home objective, because if they do, then they can drop in, shoot, and then use their shoot and scoot to take your home objective. And I kept seeing John Lennon stealing people's home objectives for capture enemy outpost with these guys. This is not normally a list that should be scoring capture enemy outpost that easily, but that's one little piece of technology for you when you're playing against Gargoyles. Ensure that you're screened 3 inches off your objective, basically, so that nothing can come in 6 inches away. We then have a Biovore, triple Exocrine, double Maleceptor, triple Neurolictor, because they rock, 2 Pyrovores, and a big unit of Zone Throps and a small unit of Zone Throps for some fire support in the late game. So largely what this list was doing was basically like trying to use the Neurolictors plus the Exocrines to do sort of insano damage. The Maleceptors can like clog up the midboard. Then you're just forcing over and over battle shock checks. Sometimes at -1 leadership from the Death Sleeper. Sometimes at -1 leadership from the Neuro Tyrant. Sometimes you stack the two together. The Neuro Tyrant is forcing a Shadow in the Warp test on somebody within 6 inches of Death Sleeper. They're -2 leadership. And as soon as you can cause them to fail one of those, all of this like mid-tier shooting, this is all like strength 8, strength 10. It's not great against vehicles, but it all turns on once it's +1 to wound and you start to rip huge things off the table. So that's what happened in the finals game against Knights. The Knights moved up to the center of the table, failed the leadership checks, and like 2 Exocrines picked up a Knight, and then like the Exocrine and Maleceptors like started to kill another one. It went so south so fast. But that also happened. We watched him play against Jack Harpster, who was playing Black Templars, and a similar thing happened with Redemptor Dreadnoughts. As soon as all the guns tune in on a Redemptor Dreadnought, if you can force one of them to fail the leadership check, it's all over. It's all over but the crying right there. I believe Central America is a way to describe that section of North America. That feels like that's some that's like rooted in some real strong 19th century racism right there, right? Somebody was like, "Well, they're part of our continent, but we can't let the kids know that they are the same as us. So we're gonna call it something different." I'll concede that one, chat. I bet some old white dude decided a million years ago that they were gonna call it something different to North America because it was Mexico. But yeah, I'm not sure about Mexico. If there are events there, let me know. I'll try to figure it out. that one I know less about. I've been to Canada a billion times. I don't know how well the transition over to Mexico is. How good the transition over to Mexico is. Get her a GoPro so we can see what Inky sees in the corner of the stream. I'm gonna be honest, that will be mostly her taking a nap in a dark room. That is a good idea, though. Inky is the queen of piling my covers into a ball and then sleeping on top of them. Should be very exciting. Where's Inky's tower now? It's like right next to me. It's just off the camera this way. So what I could do is have like a camera right here that just points at it when she wants to hang out there. But she doesn't always hang out there, which is the weird part. Like she wanders around and sleeps different places. She's not one of those cats that like picks a place and then stays there for all day. All right, let's keep moving on our Tyranid friends over here. So the other one that we saw last weekend, we see Alexander Englesauce at the Moab GT. This is down in Australia, if I remember correctly, because Moab is a big gaming tournament down there. Okay, cat, what the fuck? So this one, this was a Vanguard Onslaught. Now, there's one little piece of sort of mechanical inconsistency with the Tyranid faction that I think definitely changes their power level depending on the event that you go to. Now, the community, I think, is slowly moving to, although this didn't happen at LGT, so it's kind of a coin flip whether or not it works or not. There are a lot of Tyranid stratagems in the codex that target a friendly and an enemy model. The rules commentary, I think we've talked about the Sunstream. We've certainly talked about the Sunstream before. So I'll reiterate it very quickly here. The rules commentary states that if you have a stratagem that targets multiple units, like a friendly and an enemy unit, in order to discount the stratagem or change the points value of that stratagem, all of the units must be affected by the ability that discounts it. The problem is that for both Tyranids, and I think there are a couple other factions that get kind of nuked by this. Genestealer Cult's one of them, where a lot of their battle tactics target an enemy unit. Basically, none of their battle tactics, or very few of their battle tactics, work if that applies to enemy models as well. So rules is written, things like in Vanguard Onslaught, Surprise Assault cannot be used with the Hive Tyrant's aura to discount it. However, almost the entire community has come around and said that that's probably erroneous and that the events individually have ruled that you can. So It's a tough situation because it's not every event that does that. As we saw this past weekend, or last weekend, I should say, some events did not allow that to take place. But I would say you're like 70% of events, I think, are ruling it that way. So that's definitely sort of becoming the community consensus the closer we get. I think it'll be interesting to see how like WTC rules on it once they update their FAQ. If it's not updated by GW at that point, hopefully, I would like to see that cleared up, honestly, because that's where I think there are a lot of people who take who will sort of go along with whatever the WTC ruling is. So that would, I think, kind of like change a lot of people's mind. What's an appropriate way to play Deathleaper and Neurolictor? Both got shot off the board in 2 games this weekend. Yeah, you should definitely not be getting them shot off the board for sure. They have lone operative, so that's a little tough. Deathleaper is definitely like a little bit more of a late gamer than you expect, because you look at this model and you're like, oh, 4+ invulnerable save. Oh, I have like Infiltrator and fights first. So what I want to be doing is like running up the table and punching people with her. But generally, what you want to be doing is actually holding until the turn that you want to flip Shadow, because you can, especially in Vanguard Onslaught, and it works a little bit for the other list as well. You can run up and get a bunch of people within 6 inches. If they've lost any wounds or they've lost any models, then they're below starting strength, depending on your unit size. If you're a multi-model unit, you have to lose a model. If you're a single entity unit, you have to lose wounds. Then Deathleaper forces a Battle Shock check on you in the Battle Shock step, and you can trigger your Shadow in the Warp that turn. They're going to take 2, potentially 3 Battle Shock checks at -1 or -2, depending on if you have a Neuro Tyrant. And that's like Deathleaper sort of pulse. And then she can run around and score stuff and be obnoxious for 70 points. Like, the character is sort of statistically insane, but you definitely don't want to just like run Deathleaper up the table and just like get her clogged into combat immediately. That's tough. The Neurolictors, you similarly, you kind of want to keep them in a position where your opponent, in order to get into what's the word? In order to get into aggressive positions on the board, they have to run into the Neurolictor aura, but you don't want to like be trying to force their aura up on people. So what you want to do is like keep it so that they're encompassing like the center objective with their aura, or like if there's a piece of terrain in the middle, that they have their aura just like beyond the edge of that piece of terrain. So if your opponent moves up to take that position, then they're affected by the Neurolictor aura. Oftentimes you'll find that like the best place for these models is like 2 or 3 inches outside your deployment zone, not like way up the table, way in front. I see a lot of people with Infiltrators be like, oh, I can put the Infiltrator 9 inches away from my opponent's deployment zone, so I'll do that, and then they die, and they're like, why did they die? Well, it's because you can just keep them pretty far back, and they can still perform their function just fine. I think that's the biggest piece of technology I can get you. Can you put leadership at -2? Yeah, for sure. Mean to say rules are unclear or dubiously written? Yeah, for sure. Shocker. In 40k? Never. Never, ever. Yeah, I don't believe there's, unless I'm mistaken and there's like a rules commentary about it, I don't believe leadership has a cap on the amount of penalty you can force on it. Maybe I'll just double check that in case that I'm misspeaking here. Because I think the Dirge Heart can also affect leadership on top of other stuff. Yeah, so there's not a total cap to the modifiers you can impose on leadership, but your leadership characteristic can never be worse than or better than a 4 or worse than a 9. So if your leadership 7, which is like the average. This is Cat. She knows that I'm on camera, so now she's gonna come annoy me. So if your leadership 7, you can -2 them. But you can't get any farther than that. I don't know if there's a distinction between the leadership, the role modifier versus the characteristic modifier. Neuro Tyrant doesn't modify leadership. Okay, so you can basically get stuff to a 10 if one of the minuses is a Neurotyrant. But honestly, I guess the other question is like Screamer Killers. Oop, just showing everybody my desktop. There's a couple other -1 leaderships in the faction. Where's this Screamer Killer at? Because that forces a leadership, a battle shock at -1 leadership, I believe. But it could also be -1 to the roll. Oh no, it is -1 to the test. Yeah, so I think is Death Leaper the only Death Leaper and the Dirge chart, I think, are the only -1 leaderships in the faction. That's interesting. Cool. So it's actually very difficult for Tyranids to get the to hit that cap, I guess. Proving our worsening characters is when instructed to. This is in the modifier section. It's an important thing to know. When instructed to improve or worsen a characteristic that does not include a plus or minus, add or subtract the specified amount. Yeah, I don't know if that has a bearing here. Yeah, I guess we can just take a look at what we're talking about. Yeah, this is just telling you what improve or worsen means, basically. This isn't imposing a cap, right? But I think it's here because leadership is an X plus characteristic. So this is what would govern what improves or worsens, but it doesn't, I believe, it doesn't specify a cap here. Almost ballistic skill save characteristics can never be modified to 1+ or better. Yeah, but there's no cap on leadership as far as I can see. Anyway, so that's the Death Leaper technology. Mostly what you want to be doing is using it as an offensive aura on the turn that you're going to be forcing a bunch of battle shock checks, and then you can get the most out of the -1 leadership, and then also just kind of sandbag people on the defensive profile. So this list was running Vanguard Onslaught. Had again 20 Gargoyles, Neurotyrant. This one is running a Winged Hive Tyrant, and again this event, I believe that we had this discussion. This event allowed Surprise Assault to be used alongside the Hive Tyrant's aura, which is very good. We have Neuronode for the redeploy and Hunting Grounds to force battle shock checks on strategic reservers. 1 Biovore, 2x5 Gene Stealers. Hell yeah. I'm interested in the Gene Stealers. They do give you a little bit more of an Alpha Strike. They're sort of in place of a what's the word? Of a Von Ryan's Leaper unit, because a lot of times you would take Von Ryan's Leapers and then sort of put them in the front, redeploy them if you need to, but then like hammer somebody if you are going first, and then redeploy them back if you're not. The Gene Stealers, I guess, get the opportunity to redeploy and then scout move from. Oh, I gotta stop Inky for this. Sorry, chat. I was recording a video earlier where I had to bring a neoprene mat out, and she loves scratching those, so we have to stop her from doing that. Yes. So you can redeploy them and then scout move them, which is kind of sweet. And they're pretty good at clearing out other like T4 medium infantry, I think, because they have pretty solid offensive stat lines. They get reroll ones to hit and wound, which is good. You can maybe source a +1 to wound from Neurolictors or Surprise Assault, maybe, because they're Vanguard Onslaught, but they don't need the +1 to hit. So I think mostly they're just sort of utility. Double regular Lictor and double Neurolictor. Triple Moloch. The cool thing about the Moloch is that they also have another outlet for Battle Shock. So you can potentially be forcing additional Battle Shock checks. If you have the Death Leaper up there, you're forcing like Shadow, Death Leaper again in your turn. And then at the end of their movement, rapid ingress the Moloch and potentially force another Battle Shock if you roll high enough on the Subterranean Assault roll. So the Moloch has another synergy with the Neurolictor, and you can bring them in on the first battle round with the Seeded Broods stratagem. So there's a lot of synergy between the Moloch and Vanguard Onslaught, which is super cool. We also see double Trigon for the same reason. This list is like such a meme. I love it. We're just deep striking basically half of the army. Yeah, 360 plus 450, so like 800 points of deep strikers almost. Yeah, just about close to 200. Yeah, just about 800 points of big snaky boys in deep strike. So the rest of the list is just going to be trying to like sort of hold down on primary while the Trigons and stuff get into position. This list scores really well. This is like 100%. We're just scoring out the wazoo today because you have the speed of Vanguard Onslaught already, which is cool, between the Lictors and the Neurolictors and the Genestealers being able to advance and charge, so you can sort of hit your opponent where they're not expecting. And then also just rapid ingressing like huge, big idiots that can steal your opponent's back objectives. It's tough to beat this on primary, and then Tyranids automatically score secondary pretty well. So, that's very good. Ferrets are obsessed with silicone stuff like battle mats, joysticks, and grown-up toys. Oh boy. Oof. I know ferrets like to hoard things too, right? So you ever find like some spicy toys under the fridge? Trigons have been the MVP. Yeah, I'm so interested in Trigons because they're so good at scoring, but they're so expensive for a scoring unit. I do think that with a Neurolictor, they're much better. If you can get the +1 to wound on them, the Trigon just like sort of goes ham. It's kind of like the Exocrine, where it's just so many kind of pretty mediocre attacks. The issue I've had is that they hit so anemically that it's a little bit awkward. But again, if you're up against like sort of light stuff, I guess this is the top 5 here is a lot of heavy armor. Orcs pretty awkward, or pretty good for the Trigon, I think, because you can steal objectives and then kill a bunch of orcs really good. And it looks like that was the draw in the finals, maybe between or the semifinals potentially between orcs and Tyranids. It's adorable. But yeah, against heavier armored stuff, the Trigons have been really awkward for me anyway. But so good at scoring. Again, if you don't really care about giving up. Does this even give up Bring It Down? It gives up 15, 16, 17. It just barely gives up 20 on Bring It Down. But I guess it's kind of funny because you can sort of play KG with the Molochs. They don't really need to be aggressive. And then you can try to zero people on Bring It Down or cut people on Bring It Down. I don't know if you're going to zero them because they're certainly going to probably kill the Trigons and a couple of these guys. But yeah, the mass battle shock tech is good, especially if you can just consistently be forcing surprise assaults as well. The weird thing about a surprise assault too is that you can use it in your opponent's fight phase, but you don't need to have actually selected any units to fight. I don't believe you just use it sometime in the fight phase and choose one of your units and one of their units. So if you can use it for free, you're getting in this list. You're getting... Oh, I just lost it. There we go. You're getting potentially two Neurolictor Battle Shocks in your turn, a couple Moloch Battle Shocks, and the other... potentially 2 Death Leaper Battle Shocks and the Narrow Tyrants Shadow in the Warp. So you're... Plus like 2 Surprise Assaults a turn. So the total number of Battle Shocks you're forcing... is like 9 if you have them all targeting one unit. It's over the course of a battle round, so it's not quite like It's not the enemy command phase battle shock that you would want, but if you are really forcing the as much of the surprise assault as you possibly can, the number of battle shocks available to you is actually kind of nuts. A lot of things hit like a Pillow Fist decision. Yeah, a lot of those things don't cost 180 points, though. That's the awkward part. All right, Larry Oliver for Battle for Maryland also went 5-0. Another Vanguard Onslaught with double Brood Lords, my dude. Let's go. So I wonder if this one didn't allow free strats off of the Hive Tyrant if they targeted enemies, because we're not taking a Hive Tyrant in this one. A redeploy Broodlord, a regular Broodlord, Death Sleeper, and a Narrow Tyrant with Hunting Grounds, some Gargoyles for scoring, 1 Biovore, 1 Exocrine, 2 X10 Gene Stealers. So there you go, chat. I know we're talking about the 20 Gene Stealers, the 22 Gene Stealers, but it did win a tournament. It did 5-0 last week. Plus double Maliceptor, Norn Assimilator, a unit of Pyrovores, and Ripper Swarms. Now, I wonder, the Norn Assimilator can potentially be deep striking or strategic reserving out on turn 1. And I know the Norn Assimilator is pretty good deep striking. That's where a lot of people are playing it. Or not deep striking, strategic reserving, I should say. So I wonder if that is potentially a consideration. But it's got a pretty solid front line between the double Maliceptors, the Exocrine, to support them, and the Assimilator as well. And then we're also just sort of alpha striking people into oblivion with the Gene Stealers if we need to. So this list is like, I think much more aggressive, less like technical, but we're just trying to sort of take over the midboard with the big monsters behind the Gene Stealers, like nuking people on the first turn or setting up for a turn 2 nuke. The Gene Stealers, I will say also, I got a little bit of a benefit just by the fact that artillery was nerfed pretty significantly, especially with Advance and Charge. Their threat range is like right in the bracket where if they can get up to the middle of the table, they can charge into your opponent's deployment zone on like the next turn. So they don't necessarily need to be like this super aggressive alpha strike unit that always has something to charge immediately. And I think that the fact that they can then in the format right now, there are very few matchups that just kill them with artillery immediately. Eldar is one of them, which is problematic. Eldar is super duper toxic for these guys because they're going to Night Spinner them. They're not going to be able to advance. They're -2 movement, and a Night Spinner is good for like killing 5 of these guys. You know, at least 3 or 4 probably every time they shoot, which is super obnoxious. But you can strategic reserve them, try to do like rapid ingress stuff or something. Or just use them as objective holders. You can also lone operative them too if you want to. I guess there's nothing really else in the list that we are using the lone operative strat on, so that's probably where it's going, honestly. So you can keep them safe from that, but we don't see Desolation Squads or really like mass whirlwinds anymore. Those are the other real dangers for Gene Stealers. So Gene Stealers being able to post up in these aggressive positions that are behind line of sight blockers is super good right now. And then they have enough attacks that they're getting real ones to hit. If you can source +1 to wound on them, we do have 1 Narrow Lictor, and then you can also get a surprise assault as well. They do pretty well on top of that. So pretty cool, chat. Don't understand why people are taking so many Maliceptors, so few Zoanthropes. Well, they're much more efficient, right? A Maliceptor is the cost of like 5 Zoanthropes, and shoots like a similar amount of output. They just fulfill a different role. Zoanthropes are kind of like, they're this weird sort of like counterpunch because they have a short range. They're only really good at aggressively shooting people if they're strategic reserved. And then they explode immediately afterwards. Like, your opponent looks at them and Zoanthropes just vaporize instantly. But Maliceptors are super hard to kill. They're much better at like pushing primary. And on top of that, they also have like a pretty solid gun. So they're less of like a long range option, and they're almost like a melee unit. They're like they're a weird melee unit because they have a short range gun, so they're just like moving up into sort of the same areas that melee units would normally occupy. They're projecting their -1 to hit, -1 to wound auras on people, and then they're just like sitting in there shooting their gun out of melee, stabbing a couple dudes to death, and they just kind of like sustain turn over turn. So they're like a sustained damage versus like a long range burst damage, which is kind of what Zoanthropes do. I actually think Maliceptors and Zoanthropes are kind of like, they're like synergistic in that Maliceptors can sort of soak damage because they just run up the middle. Whereas Zoanthropes want to pop out and shoot something that shoots the Maleceptors. And so a lot of times you'll see them together. We saw John Lennon's list that was like bunches of Exocrines and stuff that are all hiding behind the Maleceptors. The Maleceptors are running up the table, forcing you to deal with them. And then once you do, all these Zoanthropes and stuff pop out of woodwork and just blast you. And that was honestly when in the index, when Zoanthropes were cheaper, like the paradigm was you take things like Maleceptors to force your opponent to shoot them. They still might not die, and then they're in range of the Zoanthropes, and you kill it with the Zoanthropes. So there's a synergy, like I said. You don't even hide Maleceptors though. You don't care about. First of all, they're not that easy to hide. Zoanthropes aren't super easy to hide because they're not very fast, and the unit's kind of voluminous. Maleceptors, you don't even hide them though. You just put them on the line. Occasionally, like you play the lines of sight sometimes, depending on when your opponent deploys. You like try to keep them off the side of the building, make the line of sight tough. But a lot of times they're just like smack in the middle of the table. There are not many armies, especially if you have defensive buffs. If you have things like, you always have cover probably, but if you have like the Invasion Fleet 5+, feel no pain, there are not a lot of armies that one-shot the Maleceptor. And if you do, then you can play cagier. But most of the time, Maleceptors just like start on the table, in the middle of the table, and just run up. You don't even care so much about hiding them. But Zoanthropes, you have to hide them. If you don't, they're all dead immediately. One unit shoots a Zoanthrope unit, they're dead. On shot with the Custodes. Hell yeah. Yeah. Maleceptors are auto take, 100%. Yeah. 100%. I agree. I think Maleceptors are on auto take. It'd be hard pressed to find a Tyranid list that isn't improved by including Maleceptors. Zoanthropes are a little bit more of a flexing creed, but they just fulfill different roles. That's the only difference. That's the thing between them. We also had some X1 Tyranids last weekend as well, but we can move on to the lists this weekend and look at what's winning. Pantheon GT over here, Brody Middleton with Unending Swarm. I know some people in the chat are talking about it. Everybody hates your Zoanthropes? Man, I hate my Zoanthropes. Those things, like, I'll shoot 6 laser beams, they'll miss 4 times, and then do 3 damage, and then immediately I'll be killed. Zoanthropes are, like, aggressively mid. But they're the only, like, strength 12 shooting that the faction has easy access to, so you kind of have to take them in to some extent. All right. This list is pretty wild. So, we're rocking Death Leaper and a Narrow Tyrant, getting those leadership debuffs stacked. 1 Tervigon for all the Termagants we're running. Oh boy, look at all these Termagants. Holy crap. All right. 2 units of Gargoyles, 20 each, 1 unit of 10. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of 20 Termagants. Oh my god. Hot diggity damn. So the wombo combo here is that we can use the stratagem to get these guys 5+ criticals. So they get sustained 1. I forget what the stratagem's called, but your Endless Multitudes get sustained 1. And if they are 20 models, which the Termagants here are, you get 5+ critical hits. On top of that, because you have a Tervigon in the list, if you're within 6 inches of the Tervigon, your hits are then lethal. So you get 5+ lethals and sustains, and then you're rolling sustains on Spine Fists, so 2 Twin Linked wound rolls. So the damage output from Termagants with that stratagem is not, I'm not going to say it's good, but it's definitely not bad. It's certainly something, especially against Inted non-2+ saves, because they don't have any AP. But then we have a lot of backline over here. Double Exocrine, a Lictor, double Neuro Lictors. What's up, Inky? A big unit of Pyrovores, 3 Pyrovores, hot damn, plus 2 Ripper Swarms, and a Venomthrope unit. The Venomthrope unit's key because you can string all the Termagants back to them. The art of Horde play has been a little bit lost in 10th edition because the Horde units are smaller now. But you used to call it like the octopus, where the front line of the unit is on objectives or engaging your opponent, and then the back of the unit strings back. You string 5 or 6 models, or even 8 or 9, depending on the size of your unit and how far they need to be. They go all the way back to the Venomthrope aura or to whatever defensive aura you want it to be triggering. So the Venomthropes and the Tervigon are probably going to be sitting next to each other, and all the big hordes are stringing back to them. And then the tricky thing you can do is because you only check coherency at the end of each round, or at the end of each turn, I should say, you can pull the models that are in that chain who would create coherency problems for you later on. You can pull them to casualties, leaving the last one in the chain and forcing him to be out of coherency. Because he's still in all the auras, so he'd still be in the Venom Thrip aura to get stealth. He confers stealth to the unit, and at the end of the turn, he just dies. So you can keep like 10 or 12 models up in the front on your opponent's objective that are -1 to hit. One dude is like 20 inches away, all the way in the back. And he just lasts until the end of the turn, and then you kill him to casualties at the end of the turn, or he just dies to coherency. It's pretty wacky and wild, but that is perfectly legal these days. Lictor over a third Neurolictor? Yeah, maybe. We might want to be using its rapid ingress to like pop up and do objectives. It also could be a model availability thing. Or they didn't have 5 points. I don't know what the total cost of this list is, but the Neurolictor is 5 extra points. And there's not really much you can cut in Tyranids. Like a Ripper Swarm? You're not going to cut a whole Ripper Swarm to find points. We don't even have any enhancements in this list. To be fair, you don't really need them because the Tyranid enhancements aren't great, but... So super cool. We also have double Exocrine for a little bit of backline shooting. Those guys can also buff the Termagant shot because you get tons and tons of shots that will then reroll 1s and lethal on 5s. So the rerolling 1s gets sort of more valuable on those models. That is super sick. Alexander Engelsos is also here. This time running Invasion Fleet with an old One-Eye. Let's go. Kind of the same idea, though. His list didn't really change. It's triple Neurolictor now. Still 3 Molochs, still 2 Trigons, triple Ripper Swarm, a unit of 2 Pyrovores, I guess, so that we can reserve it, probably. And then... we're not running any Hive Tyrants. This man's a crazy guy. So, I mean, Invasion Fleet is the one detachment that has really, really good battle tactics in Tyranids. This is the place where I would like windmill slam a Hive Tyrant if I had the opportunity to. But we're taking old One-Eye and Carnifexes instead. Clearly it works for him. This guy went 4-1. Seems good. No Gargoyles either. Wow. All right. This list is wild. We're getting work out of these Molochs and Trigons, apparently, chat. Absolutely. Absolutely dominating score with those guys. Look at this, by the way. 3 out of top 5 were all Tyranids. Hot diggity damn. Another legend, or another Invasion Fleet. Just red legends there and then set it. This one running Death Leaper, Old One-Eye, Hive Tyrant, Neuro Tyrant, Winged Prime. Did we bring melee warriors? Yeah. An Invasion Fleet. Interesting. Yeah, you can get them lethal against vehicles, I guess. That's not too bad. Because they're also sustaining because of the Winged Prime. And then you can get them critical 5s with a Draenal Surge. So they can... that is right? That's what they do. It is, yeah, Adrenal Surge. You get 5+ criticals, so you get lethal and sustain on a 5 against the vehicle if you've chosen that as your detachment ability. It's pretty good, actually. The problem is actually getting the unit to melee, but I think if you are aggressive enough with them, especially if your opponent has to deal with the Carnifexes and the Maliceptors. And Horror Spectres. There's double Horror Specs in this list, too. This list is wild. Cool. The Tyranids do have a lot of interesting builds available for them. That's a cool list. Maliceptors are still very hard to find for MSRP. Yeah, we did look them up last week, I think, right, chat? And they were still out of stock over here in the US. Does Adrenal work with the Hive Tyrant, but only on 1 unit? I think it does work on both. I think this might be a TO question, honestly. Like the rules, honestly, the the data slate was like such a mess when it came to the stratagem modifications that it's like sort of difficult to say. The question is that because I think the Hive Tyrant says that you can target a Tyranid unit, right, within 12. That it sounds like you can do it to only one, but the data slate implies that you can do it to multiple. It's one Tyranid unit within 12, so like I think it's meant to only be one. Yeah, I think it's probably just one, I guess. It's a little bit awkward. Because I don't think this would come into play if you're only targeting the single unit, and the Hive Tyrant says one unit, so it's probably just one. I would say that's probably safest bet, just one guy. They roll the 2 effects of sustain, don't add. Correct. Yeah, that's in the rules commentary. If you have sustained 1 twice, it's still sustained 1. You take whichever of your sustained values is higher, basically. I think it's like the controlling player chooses, but you'd always choose the higher one. In the UK, they only allow the Hive Tyrant to target himself, as the other units don't have the ability. Well, that doesn't make any sense. What? Well, where was I? Yeah, this only, this only applies to stratagems that target multiple units. This doesn't say that, this doesn't say that you can only modify a stratagem CP cost if every unit you target has the ability. It says that if you target multiple units, all of those units must have the ability. So I can understand the argument that if you have a stratagem that targets multiple units, you could only target the Hive Tyrant with it. But if you have a stratagem that targets one unit, then you would be able to target whoever you want anyway, right? It's an FAQ worded badly at the LGT. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to there, chat. That doesn't sound like that would be the case for every stratagem, just for stratagems with multiple targets. But that was what we talked about earlier, right? That the data slate update to stratagems is kind of a nightmare, and the community is generally coming down on the side that the Tyranid stratagems are largely unaffected, or the Tyranid auras are largely unaffected. But again, it's like a coin flip if you go to an event, whether or not they'll rule it that way. All right. Last but certainly not least, Francois over here in Quebec, with another Unending Swarm. Unending Swarm's killing it right now. I was a little bit curious whether Unending Swarm would be the best detachment once things shook out. It does have good battle tactics, so it does have good synergy with the Hive Tyrant, and it is it's got good scoring for sure. Deep striking units of 20 gargoyles for 2 CP is like kind of nuts when you think about it, because those guys can then deep strike. They go into strategic reserve. That lets them deep strike when they set back up on the table, and then they can shoot and move again. So they can just like deep strike and then steal objectives. Inky's about to scratch this thing again. Inky, you better not. This is Cat, chat. I swear. If she wasn't so cute. So this one's running 2 units of 20 gargoyles, another unit of 10 gargoyles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units of termagants. Looks like we have 1 devourer unit. We do have a Tervagon for the Wombo combo. Now I'm gonna look up real quick what that stratagem is called. I don't know if that is a battle tactic. Oh. Show me Unending Swarm. Swarming Mass. It is a battle tactic, so you can duplicate it with the Hive Tyrant. Ooh, that's such a combo. So we can do it on 2 separate units, because you can reuse a strat with the Hive Tyrant for 1 CP. For 1 CP, you get 2 units, because you do 1 for 1, and then you duplicate it with the Tyrant for free. And then you get sustained 1 and critical 5s and lethals on both units because of the Turbogon. That's like actually kind of a lot of damage. We then have 22 Neurogons. So total model count here is 20, 40, 50, 70, 90, 110, 130, 150, 100, and what is that? 172 Gaunts alone, plus all of the support models. There's nice. That's sick. Yeah, Unending Swarm definitely deserves a look, I think. I mean, the scoring itself is already super strong, and then the Turbogon combo is like super good as well. And you, on top of that, you have Tyranids, like, just sort of general efficiency when it comes to secondaries. They're so good at scoring secondaries. And then as long as, you know, you're deep striking gargoyles, you're respawning gargoyles, you're holding down, you're like forcing objectives through with the Termagants. And these Spine Fists as well. There's basically no situation in which you can't. They're so good at actions because you can do things like deploy teleport homers when you're engaged and when you advance, because they are assault pistols. Plus, they can be engaged in melee, remain in melee, respawn with the Turbogon, and then shoot whatever they're engaged with. So you're not even that safe, like, not being in melee with them. Yeah, the Spine Fists actually are kind of, like, nutty. Can you do 200 wounds in 5 turns? I mean, it's more than 200, right? Because you're probably getting a unit back a turn from the stratagem, and you're regenerating from the Turbogon, right? I think it's like D3 plus 3. Let's grab the Turbogon's data sheet real quick here. Turbogon. I think I'm gonna I might be live after this over on that purple channel, chat. I might play some Unending Swarm. All these Unending Swarm lists look kind of nutty. Give them a go. Play some meme on Unending Swarms with like 200 models. Yeah, you get D3 plus 3 Termagants back every turn from the Turbogon. So you're actually respawning at quite a few models here. Assuming that you lose Termagants every turn, you're probably respawning like 25. Call it 20 over the course of the game. Plus you're respawning probably like 80 models from the strat. So you're respawning like close to 100 models. So you have to do like 300 damage to kill the army. Oof. Back one allow you to play Unending Swarm. Yeah, there's no way in hell I would play this in IRL. Honestly, chat. I would play this in TTS all day. Never in IRL. I would die. I would kill myself. So that's cool. It definitely feels like we're sort of coming. We're shaking out the Tyranid metagame. We're coming to the realization, I think, that Unending Swarm is actually kind of the truth, and that there's still some play in the other detachments. Honestly, like Crusher Stampede, I think, is the only one that doesn't really have anything going for it, right? And maybe, like, to a lesser extent, Assimilation Swarm, but it keeps kind of, like, popping up occasionally. But yeah, Crusher Stampede just kind of has, like, hit rerolls, I guess, for a monster, for a CP. That's okay, right? And the -1 to hit and wound in melee, but it's like all fight phase stuff. Yeah, I don't know. This detachment needed Rapid regeneration, in my opinion. I don't think the Tyranid monsters are survivable enough without some sort of extra additional defensive benefit. All right, chat. So that's a good discussion about Tyranids. It definitely feels like Tyranids are they're in a weird spot because I do think that they're a faction that is kind of like so. They have so many options, and they're so singular or specific in what they do. I think that you have to be a very good player to play Tyranids effectively right now. They're definitely not this like sort of easy button win faction. So their win rate's kind of suffering from that. But if you're a very good player, you're clearly seeing some success with Tyranids. And the amount of variety in the faction is super impressive as well. We're seeing Trigons, we're seeing Carnifexes, we're seeing Horde mode. It's all pretty cool. So pretty happy with how Tyranids, I think, ended up. It's not my favorite play style, but in terms of from a balance standpoint, I think they're in a really interesting spot. Definitely, I think a little surprising to a lot of people who are kind of struggling with them. Oh, they get the tank shock one? Yeah, they get the tank shock. The tank shock strat's good. All right, chat. Should we run down the list of undefeated real quick here and see if there's any interesting ones? We have a 5-0 Adepta Sororitas. I know this is from Mixed Chicken GT, and this was streamed by Wargames Live. And from what I understand, there was maybe a little bit of spice in those VODs. So that's that might be one to take a peek at, I guess, in the games with Scott. I think there's a lot of people. I'll be honest. Adepta Sororitas are such a funky army because they're like unironically they're not terrible. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, Adepta Sororitas is fucking garbage. They can't win a game. No, they're just pillow fisted, and they have a tough time beating some of the really top factions. They have a tough time with the factions that are super survivable. That said, they're so cheap that they like regularly trade up. If you don't have an invuln save and they're able to generate enough miracle dice, which they generally can, pumping Retributor squads full of miracle dice, just like it did in the last 2 editions, is good enough to kill way more than their value. We watched over the weekend, we watched Adepta Sororitas versus Necrons, and 4 Retributors with their multi-meltas one-shot a monolith. A Necron monolith, full to 0, 1 round, bloop, see ya. And I think like they still have that spike damage in the chamber. It's just harder to get a hold of. But their utility units are so strong. Their board control is so strong. Their characters are so strong that I think that there's still a lot of play. And their vehicles are very efficient as well. There's still a lot of play for the faction, even if they have a tough time with super heavy armor. The World Eater player? I didn't watch the World Eaters game. I watched the game with Tyranids, where there was like an accusation of slow playing or whatever. That one got a little spicy. But I have to go through and watch the World Eaters game. It's a little bit suspect. There's also some dice rolls that were funky. I don't know. It's just kind of a mess, I think. Tensions were high in this game. But to my point, the thing I want to say is that I think there's a lot of people who assume they see their period against Adepta Sororitas and they go, fuck yeah, dude, I've got an easy W on my record right here. And then the Adepta Sororitas player does smart things and plays their faction well, and you get a little bit spicy from that. I think that as soon as you go into a matchup and you expect that you're going to win based on the pairing, you're like immediately an 80% to lose. That's my opinion. I would say like probably a majority of the games of any game, and 40k included, that I've ever lost were games that I said, oh, there's no way I can lose this game. And that's immediately when like you don't play you are surprised by your opponent, what your opponent can do. You don't play the mission very well. You make like stupid mistakes. And I think it's like these kind of like low tier factions that get in your head sometimes because there's still a lot of power in this faction. You just can't play like a doofus against them and expect to win. And I think some people get upset about that. That if the game doesn't go how they expected. Man, this list is rad. Double rhinos, 30 arcoflagellants. If you haven't seen arcoflagellants, by the way, chat, their profile is nutty. Let me pop it up real quick here. We watched them on stream a couple weeks ago, and they're Their profile is absolutely insane. So these guys come in with a base 4 attacks. They can give themselves hazardous in order to get an extra 2 attacks. So they can go to... This is too big, right? Yeah, that's good enough. So they can be hazardous, but go to 6 attacks apiece. They only hit on 4s, but again, they are Adepta Sororitas, so they get the detachment ability. So if you've lost any of them, then they hit on 3s. And I believe you can attach creatures, which give them hit rerolls. Is that right? Is that what I'm remembering correctly here? Oh, they get +1 to wound to the preacher. I believe you can attach. Yeah. So the preacher gives them +1 to wound. And then their strength 5, they're AP 0, which is the downside, but they're twin linked with sustain 1. So if they've lost any models on the way in, they're like basically hitting on 2s, because sustained 1 is like equivalent to +1 to hit if you don't have rerolls. And on top of that, they're +1 to wound and twin linked. So the output from this unit of 10 idiots, who are super cheap, by the way, they're 13 points a model with a 4+ feel no pain, so they're not easy to kill, is like sort of insanely nutty. I guess we're not bringing preachers for these guys, so we're not getting the +1 to wound, but I guess you don't necessarily need it if you're twin linked. Especially against light infantry, low armor save stuff. Oh my god, just destroys them. Double castigators, double crusaders for a good old objective grabbing. 2 exorcists, a big unit of Paragon warsuits. We do have Morphin Ball in the army as well. Yep, to attach into them to give them rerolls. And then a Seraphim squad for more objective stuff, and a Calidus assassin. Delightful. Let's see. So a lot of Chaos Space Marines over the weekend as well. And I think Chaos Space Marines are another army, just kind of like Tyranids, that they just have so much interesting directions they can play. So this list, for example, we're running single Chaos Lord, Abaddon the Despoiler, 2 little Chaos Terminators, or no, excuse me, 1 big Chaos Terminator squad, 1 little Chaos Terminator squad, and a Cultist mob. Double Havocs with Las Cannons. That's cool. Plus 10 Possessed. The Possessed get devastating wounds and they can complete their Dark Pact, so they sort of go nuts on auto wounding, or on unsavable wounds. Plus a Hellbrute, who pushes out the lethal and sustain to units around him. A Chaos Rhino, a Nurgling squad, and Celeste. Celeste is really... So one thing that we're seeing a lot of recently, and if you watched my games over the weekend, you actually saw quite a bit of this. There's this new push to take independent characters who are either do a lot of damage themselves or are survivable themselves, or both, and then reserve them. So last week I streamed a game. We had a singleton Khorne the Betrayer, just rapid ingressing into an awkward position. That dude like automatically kills 5 Space Marines if he gets in melee with them. He's like 8 attacks or whatever with all the 9 attacks, I think, once the World Eaters buffs get applied. So he goes absolutely insane, just like yeets 5 dudes off the table, takes an objective, or he can do a teleport home or whatever. He's useful. We also watched in the semifinals over the weekend at Battle for Salvation, there was Imperial Fistless running Lysander with no Terminators. He would just teleport by himself, just boop into your opponent's deployment zone. He can once per phase activate a 2+ invulnerable save with the shield. So he's super tough to kill and can just like sit around for a while. He's like got a big Thunder Hammer, so he can beat up a tank if he needs to. He can just do secondaries if you need him to, and he's probably going to survive at least 1 full round, because he's going to drop in, your opponent 2+ invulnerable save, your opponent's going to shoot him, probably not kill him, and then he's going to get to do things another turn, so you get two activations out of him, essentially. And then over here, obviously, these Chaos Lists are now taking Celeste in the same spot, because Celeste regenerates on a 2+. It's basically Celestine once they die. They're naturally Deep Striker because they have because they're a demon and all the demons Deep Strike. Grab there. That's the mask. Here you go. The data sheet real quick. So again, it's kind of like Lysander. They're hard to kill because they'll regenerate on a 2+ once they go down the first time. They have a lot of pretty solid attacks. They have a devastating wound, Torrent Flamer, so they're like pretty decent on Overwatch. Plus they have a whip. And they have a billion attacks in melee. 12 total attacks between 1 and 3 damage. So again, it's like this unit that could just like yeet 5 dudes off an objective automatically. They can awkwardly kill people. They have assault in melee or with their ranged attack as well, so they can advance and do actions. They go do teleport homers and stuff like that. And you're probably going to get 2 activations out of them, or at least cause your opponent to spend extra time killing them because they regenerate on a 2+. So it's really interesting. We're seeing these little independent characters be taken in more and more lists as people are figuring out which ones are good. I think previously it was always the Changeling. You just windmill slam the Changeling every time. But now the Changeling is like appropriately costed. The deep striking character metagame of 40k is really cool and interesting. Another one that orcs do. We'll see if any orcs have them. Yeah, is a Singleton Weird Boy, actually. And sometimes you take super cyborg armor body on him, too, so he gets a feel no pain. But you just have this Weird Boy sitting in the back, and then the first turn he can pop Here We Go and just teleport himself into anywhere you need to complete secondaries. There's just so many cool independent characters in 40k right now that people are bringing in. Celestis rockin'? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Any other interesting lists? 5-0 Astra Militarum over here at Pantheon. Lord Solar, a platoon command squad, and a tank commander with Grand Strategist. So we get double orders. A regular infantry squad, a Bane Sword. We watched a Bane Sword over the weekend, by the way, chat. Super cool to see that on stream. That was against Chaos Space Marines. They did a great rapid ingress to get Abaddon sort of around a corner, ate some Leman Rush shots, but then sort of got into the meat of the Militarum army, and it was kind of over from there. But cool game. Earthshaker Carriage Battery, 1 Executioner, 1 Vanquisher, double Rogel Dorns, and a Scout Sentinel. Real Armored Company vibes from this one. Yeah, how many tanks? It's 1, 2, 3 Leman Russ, 2 Rogel Dorns, and a Bane Sword. The number of infantry on the table can be counted on like one hand. Just a platoon command squad in an infantry squad, I guess. And 1 Scout Sentinel. We're going to regenerate that Scout Sentinel a couple times. Cool. Good stuff. Astra Militarum kind of coming out with some interesting builds. We watched a full Tempestus Scion army over the weekend that was super duper cool. A little pillow-fisted, but man, the objective control from that army is insane because you can reinforcement to the Tempestus Scion squads, and then because they have Deep Strike naturally on their datasheet, they just Deep Strike back in. So you're like putting these little units that are respawning themselves over and over again, kind of everywhere. Another Adepta Sororitas undefeated from Belgium. Let's go, Adepta Sororitas. Triumph of St. Catherine, plus Junith for CP Generation, and Morven. 1 unit of Battle Sisters. This one is only 13 Arcoflagellants. Yeah, the other benefit of the Arcoflagellants is that you can take them in units of 3. And so they're move 7, which isn't, it's not slow. But they're just they're hard to kill for 40 points. They have like a better defensive profile than Cryptothralls. And Cryptothralls went up to 60. And you can just use them to grab objectives and hold backline objectives and stuff. Let me tell you, I think Sororitas utility units are the best in the game, hands down. 1 unit of Paragon Warsuits, 3 Penitent engines, individual Penitent engines, plus double Seraphim squads and a Zephyrim squad. That list is kind of hard to read. Got a little bit mussed up on formatting. Does a Neuro Tyrant leading Neurogons in a Crusher Stampede list get +1 to hit when they lose a Gaunt or lose half? I don't know. We can look. We have Crusher Storm, yeah. Tyranid monster model. Nope, only monster models. So the Neurogons don't benefit from it. Only the Neuro Tyrant would. Oh, I guess the question is not whether the Gaunts get it. Yeah. So if the Neuro Tyrant unit has lost half of its models, so if the Neuro Tyrant's in 20 Neurogons and you've lost, or 22 and you've lost 12, then you would get +1 to hit and wound on the Neuro Tyrant. But the Neuro Tyrant already gives itself +1 to hit, and sometimes +1 to wound, right? So I don't know if you necessarily need that. But that does work for, yeah, that works for other stuff too. That works for like Hive Tyrants, I guess, in Tyrant Guard units. It's actually kind of interesting. You could... It's weird because they come in even numbers. So you have to lose 4 Tyrant Guard to get +1 to wound on a Hive Tyrant. Exactly 4. But the Tyrant Guard themselves wouldn't benefit because they're not monster models. Just the Tyrant would. So here's the Astartes army that I talked about earlier. We watched it on stream. Running Imperial Fists. Yeah, it took Lysander for 105. This guy's like kind of actually a steal. Grab his data sheet quickly. Here he is. Yeah, once per battle, he gets a 2+ invulnerable save at the start of a phase. He's got 5 Strength 10, AP 3, 3 damage melee attacks. And you just rapid ingress him into an awkward place where he can like punch a dude, like a bunch of dudes to death. And then it just steals their objective. Just a solid utility unit. Like, not too much you could say about that. He's just a pretty sweet dude. I love the idea of these little Smash characters. They're so cool. They're so cool and they're so useful. So this was rocking a Phobos Librarian. And I know that I talked to Sasha at the end of the event. He said his finals game. So he and Sean Naden at the event were both undefeated going into the finals. There were 4 undefeateds. Sasha played against TJ Lanigan, who was rocking Genestealer Cults. He said that the Infiltrator squad, so the 12-inch Deep Strike Denial, with the Phobos Librarian is such a kick in the nards. Phobos Librarian, excuse me. For Genestealer Cults because they are so reliant on deep striking. They can't deep strike within 12 inches of the unit, and they can't attack the unit from outside 12 inches. So they, unless they do a rapid ingress or some chicanery, there's no way for them to interact with that Infiltrator squad. That Infiltrator squad just picks like 1/4 of the table and says that no Genestealer Cult models can exist here. It's such a strong piece in matchups that rely on deep striking that I feel like more Space Marine players should be taking this thing. But then on top of that, the Primaris Librarian with Bolter Discipline, he was running that with a Sternguard Veteran squad. So he had the whole Bolter Discipline combo. So Devastator Doctrine for lethal 5 or for critical 5s. And then they get sustain on 5s. In the Sternguard Veterans, so they're running 2 heavy bolters and 7 bolt rifles, I guess. So you're shooting potentially, I guess you get a bolt rifle. Yeah, it's 8 bolt rifles. So potentially 3 shots from each bolt rifle, plus the 6 heavy bolter shots, which they already have sustained, so that's not a huge benefit. But they then critical on 5s. Those are all then devastating wounds. So what you would normally do is like pick 2 targets, split fire into a small unit with half of the Sternguard veterans, like shoot the heavy bolter somewhere or something, into 5 Space Marines or some cultists or whatever, and then shoot the Oath of Moment target, full reroll everything because we're on pre-new Space Marines, obviously. Get a bunch of devastating wounds on the Oath of Moment target, kill the second target, and then the Sternguard veterans have their bolter drill. So after they destroy a unit, they can immediately shoot again. Here they are. So it doesn't need to... They don't all have to target the same unit that's destroyed, and they don't all have to have destroyed a target with their attacks. So if you can find a unit that's low strength, maybe something else has shot it, maybe the Whirlwinds have shot it for a while, the Sternguard veterans can kind of like double tap into the Oath of Moment target. Sasha said that on stream that almost nothing in the game can survive the Sternguard veterans once they're fully tuned up. Yeah, goes pretty sweet. What are Tyrant Guard even good for right now? I talked about a Assimilation Swarm list where Tyrant Guard are pretty good. So in addition to that, we also had an Aggressor Squad with Torgaradon. Torgaradon's another... I mean, Imperial Fists have, like, pretty solid characters. I think of the compliant Space Marine chapters, some of the best characters. Torgaradon's got a 2-shot anti-vehicle 2 grav gun. So it fires 2 times. It gets +2 strength, AP, and damage against vehicles. So it goes to, or monsters or vehicles. So it goes to AP 3, 4 damage. And if you're triggering the aggressor +1 AP, it goes to AP 4, 4 damage. That wounds on 2s. Which is sort of insane, honestly. He also gives the squad ignore, cover, and lethal, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so they get lethal hits built in and ignore cover. You don't necessarily need an Apothecary Biologus to unlock that. So he's sort of like Apothecary Biologus plus, essentially. If you're not attaching the Bolter Discipline plus the Space Marine Captain, the Gravis Captain, to the aggressor unit, Torgaradon is like sort of a happy medium between the two. And he himself is an absolute monster. Like he said, he has the situationally 4 damage gun. He's also strength 14, AP 4, 4 damage when he punches a monster or vehicle in melee on top of that, which is sort of nutty. The problem is getting him into into melee with like a move 5 unit, but if you're dealing with all the artillery that this list is bringing, otherwise, a lot of times you don't necessarily need your opponent's going to be coming at you for the most part. Because this list is also running a bunch of utility units, plus a Thunderfire Cannon, double Whirlwinds, and a Calidus Assassin, plus an Inquisitorial Henchman Squad. So it has a lot of indirect fire that can be pecking away at your opponent's models. It has a lot of those little utility units like Infiltrators, Inceptors, and Eliminators that can score secondaries. And then if you push up into it at all whatsoever, the aggressors just punish you super hard. So very technical list. I really like this one. Watching it play was really cool. What's up, kitty? Battle for Maryland had a lot of, this is last week, had a lot of Space Marines do pretty well. Mark Hurdle. Oh, Inky's here. Hello. Crawling all over the place, kitty cat. What's up, girl? The Whirlwinds will hit on 3s in 2 weeks because they'll get the heavy detachment potentially. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what ends up being good. Or will they get the heavy keyword? I haven't looked at any of the Space Marine stuff, honestly, chat. I haven't had the chance. Do they become heavy? Oh, I have no idea. That sounds really good if they are. That's like super nuts. I know the... Yeah, there's the one detachment that gives heavy, and then when you remain stationary to already heavy, you get +1 to wound, right? But if they're base heavy, then they would also benefit from the +1 to wound, so that seems pretty good. Oh, we were looking at this Space Marine list. This one was running double Land Speeder Storms. The last great hurrah of the Land Speeder Storm. Plus an Aggressor Squad, Attack Bike, Blade Guard Veteran Squad, a Centurion Devastators. Whoa, okay. 1 Land Raider. And double Land Raider Redeemers. So we have the Aggressor Squad can go into the Redeemer. The Centurion Devastators, I believe, can go into the Redeemer. And then the Blade Guard Veterans can go into the Land Raider. And we're rocking Marnius Calgar, who probably attaches to the Blade Guard Veterans. So he actually... He puts them to 8, 9, 10 models. Yeah, so they fit in a Land Raider perfectly. All right, solid. And then everything else fits into Redeemers. Because the Centurions... do they count as 3 or 4 models, actually? Can Land Raiders hold Centurions, chat? Or do you need a Redeemer for that? Oh, no, only 3. So the Centurions could potentially go into the standard Land Raider also. But you just want Redeemers because they're sweet. 3 Scout Sniper Squads for utility as well. Very nice. May bring back 1 unit Desolation Squad. Yeah. I mean, we watched Desolators do pretty good work last week. That was a very good matchup for them. They played against Horde World Eaters. And, I mean, Desolators are still, like, super strong. But again, like, I guess if you're getting +1 to wound on the Venger launcher, they're kind of like a Venger launcher delivery system at that point. SA Nationals had a 401 Dark Angels. Running a Terminator Captain, Apothecary Biologus, and Phobos Librarian. The Triumvirate. Big 10 Deathwing Knights. big aggressor squad, double infiltrators, inceptor, land raider, redeemer, scouts, double whirlwind, classic. It's a classic Space Marine army. All right, chat. Any other factions that we want to dive into? I'm excited to start talking about the new Space Marine Codex. Rock some games with it potentially over the next week or so. Right now, I'm just like sort of working on preview articles, which is a little tough. Again, Chad, I have no idea what the new detachments are. So if your question is what I think about the new detachments, the answer is I don't know. All of the preview articles for them, or all the preview materials came out for them while I was driving a Crucible. So I have not had a chance to read more than just a little bit. I know very brief, sort of the 1,000-mile view, I think, of what they do. Looking for Grey Knights? Looking for some Grey Knights. We'll have to dive into the depths of BCP, I think, if we want to take a look at some Grey Knights. Oop. Let's see if any of the big events had undefeated or top placing Grey Knight players. Ooh, Grey Knights maybe had not a great weekend. A lot of X and X, basically. That's what I'm seeing. Look at how's Michigan for Grey Knights? I don't think they ever ended the Michigan GT in BCP. It's just a little bit awkward. Yeah. Grey Knights didn't have a great weekend, chat. Belgium GT, they went 2-2-1. 0-3 at Broadsword Wargaming. We saw Andrew Ryan, who we watched on stream, very good Grey Knights player, went 3-3. Double Librarians, Brother Captain with the Sigil of Exogens, and Caldor Drago with 3x5 Terminators, 2x5 Strikes, an Interceptor Squad, and a big 10-man Paladin with all the Psy Cannons you could possibly wish for, plus a Calidus Assassin. Yeah, it's if we look at the event chat. Oh, it says they ended. Okay, just kidding. Maybe they did. But I think for a while there were some rounds that weren't paired yet or something that weren't completed. I don't know. It was weird. Looks okay now though. But yeah, I didn't really see. There was a bunch of 2 and 3 Grey Knights. Grey Knights may be falling off the wagon a little bit. That's sad for Grey Knights. I'm sorry. Where have we not looked? Dragonfall. Is this the Chaos Demons list, chat, that we were talking about? Kevin Leonard? It was the Chaos Demons with the full Khorne. Chat, I played against this last week on stream. Okay, Cat. Calm the fuck down. It was with Be'lakor, though. It was with Be'lakor instead of the Bloodthirster. And then no Skullmasters, but a triple Renmaster, I think. Let me tell you. It was legit. I got a little unlucky, and my opponent played really well. I ended up going down to it, but it was a fun game. It was very close. My second turn, I shot all my guns, didn't do any damage, though. It's a little bit awkward. But yeah, this list is actually kind of the truth. Blood Crushers are legit. They do so much damage on the charge, it's sort of insane. And if you can protect them with Be'lakor on the way in, it's pretty good. The Skullmasters are interesting. Let's look at Skullmasters. I wonder if that's just sort of because we're not running any. Oh, the Skullmaster is the that is the Blood Crusher leader, right? There's a Skullmaster, Rendmaster, and the Herald guy. What's his name? All right, how come I can't find their data sheet? What have I done? Okay. There it is. All the demon HQs have the same name. So it's the Bloodmaster is the Herald. The Skullmaster is the Bloodcrusher guy. You'd think that would be the other way, right? The unit that Skulltaker can join would have a Skullmaster as its leader, and then the Bloodcrushers would have the Bloodmaster as their leader. No, it goes the other way. All right, fair enough. You get devastating wounds on the bladed horns. That's pretty good, and then you force battle shock checks on people. But then also it's just adding another model to the unit who has 9 attacks. 9 attacks, 4 of which have devastating wounds for 100 points, plus another on average 1 mortal wound on the charge. So you're averaging like 7 or 8, 7 to 8, just about. That's pretty good. Only 1 Ren Master though, chat. Shame, for shame. You have to live the meme dream of getting the Skullmasters or the Blood Crushers to 3 damage, or to, what is it, 5 damage melee attacks and 4 damage extra attacks. Any Space Wolves out there did well? Yeah, there are a couple Space Wolves. Are Custodes dead? Kind of. They're like aggressively mid. I think a lot of people like aren't really playing them right now. They're the perennial 3 and 2, I think. Almost every time I see them, they're like 3 and 2, yeah. 2 and 3. 3, 1 and 1. I wouldn't say they're dead, but they're definitely like solidly like a sort of stuck in the mid tier right now. We can take a look at the Space Wolves chats. This one was from Battle for Maryland, so we already looked at Mark Hurdle's list. I think he almost fell off of a tree like a silly goose. This one's rocking Bjorn, a Primaris Librarian with Bolter Discipline, a Primaris Tech Marine, Ragnar Blackmane, and a Thunderwolf Battle Leader. We have an Assault Intercessor squad, 1 Interceptor squad, or 1 Inceptor squad, excuse me, an Infiltrator squad, a Repulsor Executioner. Dude, Space Wolf players and their Repulsor Executioners, they love those. 1 Sniper squad, 1 Scout squad, a Stern Guard Veteran squad. So again, the exact same combo that we talked about with Imperial Fists. We're doing it with Space Wolves today. A Thunder Strike, Thunderwolf Cavalry. Ragnar Blackman, I guess, is just going into the Assault Intercessor squad. That's interesting. Just hanging out in there. Can we do Death Guard next? Yeah, take a look at Death Guard. See if there's any recent Death Guard. Last week, Goonhammer Open had a 5 and 1 Death Guard. I wonder how the Death Guard went at Battle for Salvation. So yeah, we had 5-1 this weekend. We actually watched Ronan over here play against Sasha, the Imperial Fist player, over the weekend. And that game was nuts, by the way, chat. If you watch that game was super good. You can definitely sort of tell why Death Guard they're not doing so bad right now. The stacked -1 to hits, because you have Cloud of Flies, like whenever you need it, for 1 CP. You just burn a CP, get stealth, boom, seems good. And then you can also project the Contagion Aura of -1 to hit. So there's a lot of situations where your opponent's like, oh, I'll do Rapid Ingress, like come hit you, I'll Deep Strike, I'll come into your objective, and you're like, well, if you do, you're gonna miss every attack. And then they're like, oh, okay, I'll back off a little bit, and then the Death Guard player just like hits the button and scores again. So this list in particular was just sort of like dominating the middle of the table super duper well. And almost everything deployed on the table. We weren't doing any like deep strike stuff, at least in the game that we played. There were double infiltrators, so you might not want to do deep strike stuff. But it's just like so much pressure in the middle. It's slow, but it's resilient, and it hits like a truck. Lord of Contagion and a Lord of Virulence, plus Mortarion, big brick of Blight Lords, 10 Blight Lord Terminators, plus cultists, and a 6 man of Death Shroud Terminators. That one took the Lord of Virulence, so they got wound rerolls. So they were auto-hitting anti-infantry flamers with wound rerolls. The unit slaps. Plus 3 fetid blow drones, super good for just like standing on objectives for a while and being obnoxious. And triple Plague Bridge Crawler, 2 units of Nurglings for support. And it was just solid. It's just a solid list. It just stood in the middle, like slowly moved up to all the objectives. You put 2 or 3 things on all the objectives, and you just like pass the turn to your opponent every turn. And it came so close to getting to the finals. It was one, almost literally, it was one play off. If a play had gone differently, Ronan would have won that game. Super sick. No, so the Death Guard Contagion reduces the enemy's weapon skill if they're within Contagion aura of them. It's inside. Do I still have my thing up? Yeah, I do. Yeah, so it's -1 weapon skill and ballistic skill. So it's a characteristic modifier. It's not actually a hit roll modifier. So if you can apply both of those, but you can't apply 2 instances of a single one. So stealth is -1 to your hit roll. Skull Squirm Blight is -1 to your weapon skill. So your weapon skill is reduced, which you then roll against, and then your hit roll is reduced. You can't stack multiple hit roll modifiers, though. So if you have -2 to be hit, for example, the only thing it does is it gets around hit bonuses that your opponent has. So if you have like a stratagem that's -1 to hit, it doesn't actually stack with stealth. But if you have a effect that reduces your opponent's weapon skill by 1, it does stack. And you can even do it in melee as well, because the Nurglings also have an aura of -1 to hit in melee. And again, it's because the Blight is -1 weapon skill, you're actually going to be getting -1 to hit in melee too. So for a CP, you can be -2 to hit in shooting, if your opponent's close enough, obviously. If you have Nurglings nearby, you're -2 to hit in melee. The level of like hit roll modification that Death Guard do now is nutty. Absolutely nutty. Played Ringer at Michigan GT, accidentally stopped with 60 Plague Marines. Hell yeah, dude. Were you playing against buy rounds, or were you like actually in the event? That list is cool. Did that get on DGI? Oh, yeah. No, it didn't. Oh, okay. Interesting. All right, chat. Any other factions that we want to take a look at here while we wrap things up? Well, thank everyone for coming and hanging out with me. If everybody in the chat, by the way, could drop a quick like-see, that would be sweet. So we can push it to more people. Get more people in chat. Hang out with more people. I have a halberd to put the unit contamination range for sure. Yeah, the halberd tech is sweet. I didn't realize, honestly, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but the halberd affects you for an entire battle round after it shoots you. So it still applies all of the debuffs to you for the entire turn. True Ringer wasn't registered. Any new Tau or Necron tech? I don't think that there's new Tau or Necron tech. I think there's like sort of a continuation of the existing Tau and Necron technology. I would be surprised if we saw new stuff. This is a 5-0 Tau from this weekend. Or Necrons, excuse me, not Tau. Very different than Tau. Yeah, it's a Hexmark Destroyer, Lord, Oracan, Overlord with a Bleeder. A Transcendent Katana with Sempiternal. We got the Necron Warrior Brick. Do we have a Ghost Arc? No Ghost Arc today. Ophidian Destroyers and Lich Guard. A lot of lists are going to... I think we've seen either 10 Lich Guard plus 20 Warriors or 10 Lich Guard plus 10 Immortals is the other thing. This one has 6 Locust Heavy Destroyers as the shooting plus a Doomsday Arc. No... There's no... Sovereign Coronal, which is interesting. Just 1 Cryptothralls plus Flayed ones, so guess a little bit less in support, but we're focusing on the backline fire support over here with the Locust Heavies. Seems good. We did see a monolith over the weekend. Alex Fennel was playing a monolith at Battle for Salvation, which we streamed, which was sweet. But he ended up dropping after the quarterfinals, which I'm not sure why, but I think he had some personal stuff. LLV rocked this weekend? Yeah. Leagues of Wotan killed it. It's an undefeated at Quebec City, and I believe number 3 or 4 at Battle for Salvation. Was Leagues of Wotan? Yep, number 4. Big Hearthkin Warrior Brick, Infinite Sagittars, 4 Sagittars, triple Brokir Thunderkin hanging out in Hecaton Land Fortresses, plus double Chthonian Berserks. Let's go. These guys were such a crazy redemption arc. They were so ludicrously overcosted in the index. It's good that they're finally actually playable. They're like 33 points a model for like a speed 5 melee dude. Like, what are you talking about? With no armor, only feel no pain. Like, come on. What the heck? First tournament since 4th ed this Saturday with your squats. Hell yeah, dude. Hope you have a good time. Honestly, Leagues of Wotan's like okay right now. They're pretty good, I would say. Solidly upper mid tier. Just like +1 to hit and wound on their whole army basically is like a hell of a drug. Can I do a future video on how to use the Neurolictor? So I think I might get away from videos focusing on single units because they kind of bomb. Like my video yesterday about, or last week about Tyrant Guard is like one of my least viewed videos in a really long time. And my video about aggressors was really bad too. So like, honestly, probably not. If you watch my video about best Tyranid units, I think I talk about the Neurolictor for a long time there. Like, that was, yeah, I think it was like the best units in the Codex. But I kind of, I don't know. I'm at an impasse on where to go with video topics in the future. Because the normal stuff I've been doing hasn't been really doing very well recently. And I think it's largely because it's not like kind of particularly unique content. A lot of times if people want like datasheet breakdowns or specific tactics things, like they go to Art of War, they go to Aspect Tactics. And I'm sort of like, I don't know, I feel like I'm sort of the third wheel, I guess. So I think that, I was tweeting about this last week, but I think that I might have a little bit of like an exploratory period. Do some like funny stuff. Do some more interesting, like entertaining content, I think, rather than like specifically like just tactics and stuff like that. Because yeah, right now I think I'm kind of like in direct competition with other channels, which I don't really want to be. I don't want to be in a position where I'm like, oh, you should watch me or over a different channel because we do the same videos. That's no good. Enjoying the live streams of tourney games? Yeah, I mean, that might be part of it, honestly. Like, the Crucible kind of came out of nowhere, and we had a discussion last year. That was on the docket for a really long time. They were, like, really adamant about me going out there. They were super into it. And that was awesome. And I think just the positive feedback from that has been great. So I'm definitely, over the next couple weeks, I'm putting like a ton of time and energy into improving the streaming setup just so that there's less like hiccups. The biggest thing right now is I think that my microphone setup is bad. It hits interference way more often than it should. So it gets a little scratchy sometimes. Got to fix that. Get more cameras or like better cameras right now. I have a 5 camera setup right now. We might try to add 1 or 2 more. See if my rig will do it to it. That'd be good. And then, yeah. Yeah, try to stream more and more tournaments. That should be fun. Warhammer meme review. That I mean, maybe. What I kind of want to do, let me know if you'd watch this, chat, but what I want to do is like for a while ago I did like challenge games where usually people on the Patreon would challenge me to do like a list archetype where it was like we did like 60 tactical marines, which was legit actually. That was right after the 9th edition Chaos Space Marine Codex came out. It was like super strong, and I was 1 point away from beating like super duper tech Chaos Space Marines with like Mimi 60 tactical marines. We did all flyer Tyranids. Everything had to have the fly keyword. Could do stuff like that. I might do videos on that kind of stuff. So if you like to see some like funny list breakdowns of like meme lists, then that could be a funny direction to go in. No one beats Osmex on video speed drops. Yeah, I mean, like that dude's work ethic is insane. It's also I very much enjoy video editing, so like I like to like do little flourishes and stuff. And I think having the PowerPoint presentation format, I just like wouldn't enjoy doing as much. Plus, it's tougher to be a 40k creator in the this isn't like a complaint, just an observation. But it's tougher to be if you want to do news and events and stuff. It's tougher to be a creator in that space in the US because new news drops on a UK time frame. So a lot of times we'll get something and it'll be like 6 a.m. here, and I won't wake up for another hour or two, and then like you know, another channel would already have a video out about it. So then like, what am I doing? You know, that gets a little bit funky. Obviously, it works the other way sometimes. Like tournament results, sometimes we get earlier. There's like some I don't know. There are rumor drops and leaks and stuff like that I've been able to get faster, but I don't know. I'm just like I'm not into like the direct competition quite so much. Not very good for specialized topics. Yeah, that's the awkward part though, right? Like specialized topics in general don't get quite so much traction, and that's tough when you're trying to you can I think I can only get so niche in my opinion. If I start talking about like specific unit tactics in a an army that isn't Space Marines, then I don't really like I don't get my time back basically, and it gets a little bit awkward, which is like the unfortunate reality of trying having to pay my rent, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Entry level competitive content. Yeah, I've done. I mean, I think new player stuff is definitely something that I want to continue doing. I did a bunch of like sort of basic tactics breakdowns at the start of the edition. I want to go back and do in 9th edition. I did like a huge breakdown, like an hour-long breakdown of like exactly how to play 40k. I want to release that video again for a 10th edition, obviously. So that's certainly going to happen. And then like discussing sort of the more niche tactical stuff that comes out, where like when people are talking about, oh, you want to do combat orbiting or you want to do, fight phase breakdown. I've done most of those videos already, but definitely that's something I still want to do. Yeah, so the other thing that I do want to say is that I think a lot of that we're talking about niches within niches and stuff like that. A lot of that really specific stuff I still want to do. I might do as like a Patreon. I've been releasing more sort of off the cuff takes on like basic tactics things over for like patrons and channel members, and that lets me like I don't know sort of put less production value into it, which means I can do them faster. Inky, can you not please come here? You want to come say hi to chat? No, all right. She just wants to scratch me. So I think that's probably where like the hyper specific tactical stuff will end up. And that might be a thing where like I guess that's probably a good idea to have like a video like a I don't know what's the thing, like a suggestion box where people put the thing in the suggestion box, and then every week or so I make a video about it. That's probably what I'll do. Go back to 9th edition, 90s White Dwarf battle reports. Let's go, dude. I do want to kind of do like a some retrospective stuff would be cool. I want to do. There was a hot minute where I wanted to do like super in-depth breakdowns of other miniature games. I think that's like video essay style breakdowns of miniature games. That's like a niche that nobody's ever done before. I don't think anyone would watch that. But if I were to like, Inky's gonna scratch my fucking mat again. This is why I don't leave mats out, cat. Get over here. This fucking cat, dude. Oh my god. What am I trying to say? Yeah, like video essay style breakdowns of like other miniature games. You talk about the history and the gameplay, and then like compare them, like get really nitty and gritty with the mechanics of them. That's stuff that I fucking love, but I don't think anybody else loves that as much as I do. Where you're like, well, see, the mission design of Star Wars Legion is interesting, but leaves something to be desired when compared to the industry standard. You know, that kind of shit. But nobody cares about that. That would be immense amounts of effort and time and energy. Not to mention money if I actually have to play 1,000 miniature games to do a series like that. But I would love that. Competitive games edited to 30 or 40 minutes with commentary over graphics, explain plays, and things like that. Yeah, I did those for a while. That's an interesting one because that's one that like I think a very specific community really wants to see, but every time I did those, nobody watched them. Those also take like kind of an enormous amount of time, especially if you're doing them in person. It's a little bit easier on TTS, but I think the TTS content, TTS like already like sort of turns people off. But that was another series where I started to do them, and then they really bombed super hard, and I was like, well, this sucks. I did those start of 9th edition when the edition switched over. I did a bunch of battle reports like that. I would love to do those though. The other thing would be cool is like if like, people like sent in recordings of videos and I could like commentate over them, that'd be sweet. I love doing commentary. Chat TVG controls Warhammer 40k army. Hell yeah. That'd be a good one. All right, chat. I think we're just we're going in circles here. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up. I will be I have a little bit of extra work to do, but I will be live later this evening over on the Purple channel. So if you want to come continue to hang out with me and we can talk about silly video ideas that would be super funny, then please come hang out with me over there. Otherwise, have a good one. I don't have any tournament scheduled this weekend, but we'll see how things go. Actually, no, I have an event I'm going to. So I'm not streaming anything this weekend, but I will be live as often as I can over on Twitch this week. Now that we're back into a normal schedule, that would be great. I think right now, tomorrow and Thursday morning, I have games scheduled. So those will be games with Thousand Suns, actually. It should be fun. And that's what's up. That's what's going on. So, yeah, anyway, thanks everyone for hanging out with me. Remember to keep it classy, have happy wargaming, and I will see you in the next one. Please come hang out with me on Twitch in a little bit. Bye, everybody. Inky, will you stop yelling at me? Jesus Christ, you're so needy.